Hello and good evening. Welcome everybody back to Cooking with Chief Tony. I hope everybody's having a good week or had a good week and is having a great Saturday evening. Hopefully you're with family and friends or loved ones of the kind. We're going to get started here in just a few moments, and tonight's segment is going to be something that is kind of near and dear to my heart, something that my grandma used to make, or a rendition of what my grandmother used to make rather, called Lazy Man Enchiladas. And so it's going to be an enchilada casserole that I kind of took and made my own with the same premise that she had. And so we're going to wait a few moments so people can get online. But again, thank you for coming out and supporting Cooking with Chief Tony. As you can see, I already got my apron on. I work today at the VA hospital doing COVID testing. So we're a little behind schedule, but not at the same time. So just bear with me, okay? So again, tonight we're going to be making a rendition of my grandmother's Lazy Man Enchiladas or enchilada casserole. And it's going to be chicken enchiladas with green sauce. We've got various different ingredients, and I'll go ahead and show you in just a moment. Like I said, just for those that are kind of picking up, getting on here, I got off work just a little bit ago, so you have to excuse me. I already got the apron on and everything else. But this is what our ingredients look like. We got corn, we've got our chicken breast, we've got fresh cilantro, we've got cheese, we've got one onion that I've already chopped the ends off of, we've got some minced garlic, we've got some chopped olives with jalapenos. We have 2 cans of Las Palmas green chili enchilada sauce, and we have some black beans that we're going to incorporate with our dish. Tonight's seasonings, we have a various group. So we've got, here's our water, but we've got some chili powder, we've got some pepper, chili powder, we've got some cayenne pepper, we've got some cumin, and we have some garlic salt, we have some salt, and then I like to add a little bit of crushed red peppers, and then like I said, there's our water. So we're going to go ahead and make, as I said earlier, an enchilada casserole, or as my grandma used to say, Lazy Man Enchiladas. And basically because you're not rolling them, you're literally layering it piece by piece. And so it's a quick and easy way, well, kind of quick, an easy way to enjoy something of ethnic culture, but also enjoy the ease of it as well. So I'm just going to kind of show you here. So I'm just going to use my regular pie pan. It's about a 9-inch glass pan. I've got my flour tortillas. And so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to set you down over here in just a moment. Again, I'm going to go over our ingredients. We got our black beans. We've got our 2 cans of green sauce. We've got our minced garlic. We have our olives with jalapenos in there just to give it a little extra kick if it doesn't have it already. We've got 1 onion. We've got 1 bundle of cilantro, fresh cilantro. We've got cheese. We've got our chicken, and we have our corn. So let's go ahead and get started. As everybody knows, I love to promote hand hygiene, especially right now in COVID. We need to make sure that we're doing our part to not only keep our food clean and healthy, but we need to make sure that we're washing our hands pretty good all the time, okay? So just rinse our hands. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and if you're not a mother, happy Mother's Day from the Chief, okay? So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start chopping all of our stuff. I kind of, as I said earlier, worked all day at the VA, so I didn't really have a chance to prep, but let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and use 1 decent sized onion. It can be anywhere between medium to large. And yes, I just left the skin on. So why did I do that? Because it's so much easier to peel that way. See, you just go ahead and move this, and we're just going to go ahead and peel that off. Hi Katie, how you doing? All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and peel that off. I'm going to toss it in the sink for now. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm not going to mince this, but I'm going to slice it into nice thin slices. And so I'm just going to kind of take my time with that. Again, just thin slices. I'm not going to mince it. You can dice it, you can mince it. I'm not going to because I love onions and I love how big they can be in this. So that's just my personal preference. I want to kind of break that down just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this the same thing to this other side. So just, again, kind of just go with the ridges of the onion itself. I hope everybody's having a good day today. It was a little warm here in Las Vegas today. All right, so now that I've got my onions, I'm just going to take my bowl and I'm going to go ahead and take my onions and I'm going to kind of break them up just a little bit, just because in just a few moments we're going to put them in the pan to go ahead and cook. So I'm just going to go ahead and break these up. Whoo! There we go. There's the kick. There's the water right there. So one good trick, and I don't have it with me right now, one good way to actually get away from the sting of onions is to actually have gum. When I was in Afghanistan working traumas and stuff like that, we would get burn patients all the time, and especially during the summer because, you know, in Afghanistan we were in the middle of what we called the fighting season. You had 4 seasons. You had winter, fall, spring, summer, and fighting season. And so during fighting season, we always ended up, you know, getting casualties from the front lines. Usually they were either gunshot wounds or something like that, but we would often get burn patients. And when you're dealing with burn flesh, and I'm sorry that's kind of gory and icky, but using gum would actually help get rid of the smell. And I found that over the years, using that same trick with onions actually helps. So, as I said, I'm just breaking this onion up, breaking it down into little single slices, or as much as I can together. I'm going to go ahead and now put this in here, put it all in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that off to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and take my cilantro, and I'm just going to go ahead and slice it in half, or just above the little holder. So you'll see the holder. I'm just going to toss that to the side because I don't need that. So I've already went ahead and rinsed this off. You always want to rinse off your produce, especially when you get it fresh from the store. And I'm just going to go ahead and chop this up. I want to chop it up to a little itty bitty piece, okay? Into itty bitty little pieces. It's okay to have a little bit here and there, long leaves and stuff like that, but you want to try and break this up into littler pieces. Now you're going to need all of this for your dish or dishes, however you decide how much to make. But tonight we're going to be using 3 chicken breasts, and we're just going to go ahead and chop all of this up. For those that are reaching in for the first time, just tuning in, we are making something that my grandma used to call lazy man enchiladas, which is enchilada casserole. This is my grandma's, well, my spin off of my grandmother's old recipe. So my grandmother used to use red sauce. You can use red sauce for this, but because of medical concerns and stuff like that, I tend to use green sauce, and I like green sauce a little bit more. I think it has a little bit more of a flavor and everything else to it than the red sauce, and it's less acidic. So for my people who worry about red sauce and tomato sauce and stuff like that because it's too acidic, you can also use the green sauce, which is what I prefer anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off the side of my blade on the side of the bowl. Just be careful. You don't want to slice yourself. I didn't, but you want to make sure you don't do that. Just be careful. So I'm just going to take that, and I'm just going to go ahead and scoop this up as much as I can. Put this in here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and rinse my hands. And I'm also going to slide my board off to the side just so that way you can see. I'm going to slide my board over towards the sink. I'm going to rinse off my knife because I don't want any residue on that. Set it off to the side. I'm going to rinse my board off as well. Just real quick because we're going to need it later for our chicken as we shred it. Okay, so I'm just going to let that sit there. I'm not going to wipe it down or anything like that. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to go ahead and head over to the stove. And I have one of my regular pans. I don't have a boiling pan. I just have my big saucepan. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on a medium low heat, okay, just so we can kind of get it warm a little bit. So while we come back over here, what we're going to do is we're going to take some minced garlic, and that's going to be our alarm basically. So I'm not going to use a timer. I'm just going to go ahead and let that be my alarm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some minced garlic, and you can get some of this at your local grocery store. I get it from various different places, but I like La Bonita here in Las Vegas, for those that are near Las Vegas. So you'll know what that means. All right, so I'm going to take 1 good serving spoon, and I'm going to go ahead with the juice, as much juice as I can get, and I'm going to go ahead and let that sit in the pan. So what I'm going to do while I'm doing that is I'm letting it sit in there, and I'm just going to kind of even it out a little bit, because it's going to start to sizzle. And when it starts to sizzle a little bit, that's when we're actually going to go ahead and put our onions in there. We're going to put the whole onion in there, and then we're going to let that cook with some cilantro, and then we're going to go ahead and move forward. Okay, so as we go ahead and stir this up a little bit, I'll turn it around. You can kind of see that it's already starting to bubble a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and take my onions that we just chopped, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. And I'm actually just going to let it cook right there in my pan. I'm going to turn you around for a sec so we can kind of get all of these in here. I'm going to set my bowl off to the side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to even this out. I'm not changing the heat or anything like that. I'm just going to let this cook for just a little bit. But I want to make sure I get the onions and I get the garlic nice and mixed in there. So just kind of swirl it around a little bit. But I'm just going to let it sit for just a moment once I get it set. So while I let this sit for just a few moments, we're going to go ahead and come back over to our other bowl where we had our cilantro. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that over next to the stove so we can kind of go ahead and get this ready to go. I'm just going to let it sit for just a moment so that way we can kind of get it a little caramelized on one side, and we want to make sure that it has that nice good onion garlic flavor. So as you can, and I'll let you see, as you can see, we kind of have some of this going on over here, so it's starting to caramelize. So I'm going to go ahead and start stirring, because we don't want to get it, we don't want to burn it. We just want it to get a nice little color a little bit. So the garlic, as you can see, is starting to brown a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix this. And again, it's on a medium low heat. So it's not too high, it's not too low. It should be just right. Depending upon your elevation, it may need to be a little higher, it may need to be a little lower, just depending upon your elevation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add some of our cilantro here. I just took a little handful. I'm going to go ahead and take another little handful. I'm just going to sprinkle that in there just like that. Try and get as much as I can off of my fingers because it is still wet. And I'm just going to mix this like that. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and let this sit for just a few moments. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to head back over here and we're going to check out our chicken, right? So while we're doing this, usually you might want to go ahead and start opening up your cans and stuff like that. But because I've already, pre-staged some of this stuff, I've already opened my cans. So I don't necessarily need to worry about that, except for the olives. But what I am going to do is I am going to check out the pieces of chicken that I'm going to go ahead and use. So again, when you use chicken and stuff like that, you want to make sure that you wash your hands before you really touch a whole lot of stuff. The bag is already clean, but before we go ahead and actually take this out, we want to check and see what we have. So I'm going to go ahead and show you here just a moment So this is what we're working with tonight. We have some big pieces of chicken in here, and I prefer to deal with the big ones because you can get more out of it, and it's actually cheaper when you buy it frozen like this. At least I think so. So that's what we're working with right now. So to answer your question, Ginger, we're making something that my grandmother used to say, lazy man enchiladas, or enchilada casserole, which is something very simple, very easy, especially for mom and dad who work all the time and, you know, don't really want to make enchiladas the traditional way. It'll be something that's just easy, quick, easy to do. So anyway, we're going back over here. So our onions, our cilantro, we've got our 1 serving spoon of minced garlic with the juice, and it's on a medium-low heat, so it's not cooking too fast. It's cooking just right. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to stir this for just a little bit, because I want to make sure that the onions have a nice, that they're cooked nice all the way through as much as possible. But also stirring it is going to keep it from burning. You want it to have a nice color, so it's okay if it's browned a little bit. It's really going to be up to you in personal preference. I like to have them browned just a little bit, but it's really going to be up to you and how you want to do that. So I'm going to just let that sit there for just a moment. Okay, I'm going to come back over and I'm going to get our chicken, because our chicken is actually going to cook in our onion, garlic, and cilantro mix. And this is one of my own personal secrets that I love to do, just because you capture all the flavor of the onions and the garlic and the cilantro. But also you're gonna, I like to kind of grill it or cook it on the stove before I actually boil it. So that's also another secret when I make my enchiladas or I make my tacos. I always boil the meat before I actually cook it in the oven, or I actually put it in on the grill or something like that. Not all of my meat, but some of my meat, because when you have a nice juice, a nice roux, and a nice broth, then you can use that for other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you down for just a moment, and I'm actually going to use one hand just because I have to be able to pick up the camera after. But I'm going to use this as my dirty hand, and this is my clean hand. The bag is clean. There's no drips or anything like that from juice or anything like that from the chicken, just because we want to make sure that we're not contaminating anything, and I don't want to contaminate myself. So what I'm doing is I'm just stirring this up. So I'm going to move everything to one side, and I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm going to move everything to one side of the pan, and there's a reason for this. So when I lay the chicken down, it will actually be, I will be able to still pick up some of the flavor, but of what's already been cooked, without actually getting rid of everything that's stuck to the pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set that off to the side, and I like to use big pieces of chicken, and I try to measure it or align it to the outer part of the pan. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and set this one piece on top. I'm going to go ahead and take my other hand, my clean hand, and I'm going to go ahead and move around my onions, because I need to go ahead and make extra space for what I've done. So now I've got all 3 pieces of chicken. I moved everything aside, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like. So the frozen chicken, part of the reason why I like working with frozen chicken is because you actually have water. It's ice, it's frozen, so you actually don't have to add extra water to it. So here's what I did. I aligned the chicken breast as much as I can to the outer part of the pan. I moved my cilantro with my garlic and minced garlic and onions to the side. There's 1 whole onion there. It's about a small medium-sized onion with minced garlic and some cilantro. And so again, I'm just going to go ahead and let this sit just like that. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back and wash my hands. As you guys can tell, I'm a weirdo when it comes to germs and stuff like that, especially when it comes to raw meats and stuff like that. So anyway, so for those that are just checking in with me, again, we're making something that my grandma would have called lazy man enchiladas. This is kind of my take on her recipe of what she used to do. And so anyway, and it's just basically an enchilada casserole. So again, kind of going back over here. So we're going to go ahead and turn this around. So we're just letting this cook a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cover this up. So just so that way we can get this going. Okay. So while we're doing that, let's come back over here. So I've got corn. So people are probably wondering, why do I have corn? Why do I have black beans? And why do I have olives? Well, one of the things that, one way that I've always made it, that I learned from my grandma, was to put olives in it. But I love to put black beans and corn in my enchiladas or my shredded chicken tacos and stuff like that, just because, again, it gives extra flavor. But if you come from a large family like mine, I'm the oldest of 10 kids, and you got to feed 10 kids, or you got to feed 5 kids or whatever. That's a lot of kids, man. And I don't know what my parents were thinking. But anyway, when you have that many kids, you got to stretch a buck. And so when you're stretching a buck, the corn, the beans, the olives, the little things here and there actually build it up, so you actually have a little bit more to work with. So anyway, let's go back to our chicken. So I let that sit in here. I'm just going to go ahead and turn my chicken a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get my tongs out, and we're just going to go ahead and turn our chicken. Now, you don't have to turn it, you can let it, but you want to get all of, you want to let it cook evenly. You can let it, you don't have to, but I prefer to let it cook evenly. So we got a nice, and see, all of that right there was actually stuck to the pan just a few moments ago. But because we've got nice frozen chicken in here, we were able to soak all of that up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of stir this around a little bit, just because we don't want too much of the caramelization to take place. I mean, you can, but I like a little color, not too much. So as you can see, it's starting to caramelize, and we want to start moving this around just a wee bit. And I said a wee bit. So anyway, okay, let's go ahead and turn around. So yes, I did say this is going to bake in the oven, and I also said that this is cooked on the stove as well. So this is going to be one thing that you want to check and look. In just a moment, I'll show you. So you want to preheat your oven to 375, and it's going to go in the oven for, again, about 40 to 45 minutes. So this is going to be a 2-part series. And yes, I said 2 parts. So I'm going to show you how to make it. I'm going to show you how to get it all set up, put in the oven, and then I'm going to come back on live later on, and I'm going to show you the final product. So, and then I'll take pictures as well. But anyway, so what we're going to do now, as you can see, we've got our chicken. We've kind of grilled it a little bit. I'm not going to grill it completely. It's not going to cook completely through just like this. Why? Because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take one of my cans of the Las Palmas green chili enchilada sauce, which is what I have here. I'm going to take one of the 2, and I've already opened it up. So I'm just going to take the lid off. Just take the lid off, just like that. Shake it off. I'm a weirdo. Like I said, I try not to let anything go to waste, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and take my can, and because I have one hand, I'm just going to go ahead and take it and pour it in just like this. Why? Because I want the enchilada sauce to marinate the chicken, but also I'm going to go ahead and add 2 cups of water. Okay, so what you can do is, one of the things that I love to do, especially when it comes to cans of like tomato sauce or enchilada sauce, is pour some water in it. Because I'm going to pour the water in the pan anyway. I'm just going to swirl it around, and therefore we got the majority of it out. I mean, I don't think you can get any more out of this can than what I've already done. So I went ahead and used some of the water. As I said, I poured, or I had 2 cups. I filled it up to 2 cups. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to I took some of that water out and poured it in the pan. Now in the can, just to get out the rest of the sauce. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pour the rest of this in here. Okay. And I'm going to turn my heat up, because I want to boil this. So I'm going to put that at medium or just above medium, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of stir this around a little bit. Why? Because you want to get the minced garlic, you want to get anything that's left on your spoon here. You want to get it going. So I'm just going to kind of stir that a little bit. So what I'm going to do, and as you can see, it became more of a broth instead of a sauce. So, and that's perfectly fine, because we're going to boil this now, and we've got our chicken in here, and it's just above the chicken. Okay, so if you have 2 cups of water and your 1 can of Las Palmas green chili enchilada sauce, then and it's way over, don't worry about it. But you just want to have it just cover this. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go ahead and cover my chicken. So again, I'm just going to turn you around real quick. We're going to turn this. We're just going to cover this. Okay, make sure it's good and sealed. So me being me, I wouldn't be a true planner or anything like that if I hadn't already started one. So all right, so let's go ahead. This is what it's going to look like when you start finishing, once you get towards the process, right? So we've got a nice good broth going on here, and I know that doesn't look like what you would use for enchilada sauce, but it's okay. That's why you have 2 cans, because this is going to go back, and this is what you're going to use, part broth, but you're also going to mix that extra can in there, and then you're going to be able to dip your tortillas in that to help. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. So now this has been boiling for about maybe 10-15 minutes, and on a low heat. I started off with a nice high boil, and then once it started boiling, I let it simmer on low, and as you can see, it's actually really already starting breaking apart. And these are 3 pieces of chicken, okay? So I mean, literally, this is all you're going to need, guys. So you can feed probably, I don't know, maybe 3-4 people if you have a small family. If you have a big family, you might want to make a little bit more. But this is something simple. I literally went to the store, and I think I may, with everything that I already had, maybe $15-20. I mean, so this is really cheap, really easy. Something that especially for a family that is literally kind of struggling or trying to make ends meet and stuff like that, this is something that could go a long way, and that'll feed everybody and make everybody happy, right? So let's go ahead, and we're going to take our chicken out, take the second chicken out, and I'm actually going to show you how I kind of break it up. So you can do one of 2 things when breaking up or cutting up your chicken. You can either do it the way that I'm about to show you, which is fork and knife, literally, or you can take your mixer, if you have a handheld mixer, and actually break it apart that way. And that's actually a very easy and cool way, but I don't want to do that many dishes tonight. So, so like I said, I worked all day, so I'm tired. The chief is tired tonight, okay? So I'm literally making it as simple. And for all you working parents out there, God love you, because you're coming home making food for your kids. And if you got teenagers and you worked all day, God, hats off to you even more. All right, so back to our chicken. So I'm going ahead and using a ladle that has hole slats at the bottom. just so that way I can take out the chicken. Okay, I'm just going to dump it in my pan or my bowl here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the same. I want to try and just get the chicken as much as possible so that way I don't have to worry about losing anything else. But again, I'm just picking up the chicken here, straining it because I want to keep as much as I can in this pan. Okay, so here we go. We got most of our chicken out. Okay, and so in here earlier, just the same recipe, same everything. We had 1 onion, cilantro, 1 serving spoon of minced garlic with, with some water. And so far we've only had 1 can of the Las Palmas green chili enchilada sauce. Okay, so now we have all of this out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is over here I've got my corn, I've got my black beans, and I've got my green sauce, my second can of green sauce. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and pull this bad boy out now, and the reason is because we want to thicken this up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this can. I'm not going to add any water to it. I've already added all the water I'm going to use, so I want to just go ahead and take this and get everything out that I can. Again, because I love having everything used, right? So I went ahead and did that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set you down for just a moment, and I'm going to open up my frozen corn. So this is frozen corn, right? So I said I wasn't going to add any more water, but what does frozen corn have on it? It has water. It has frozen water. So perfectly fine. The things that we're adding to this are just going to make it a little bit extra special and good. So don't worry about the water content. Okay, so I'm actually going to use a whole can or a whole bag of frozen corn. Okay, and I'm just going to mix this in here. Okay, and I'll kind of turn you around just so that way you can see it just a little bit. I'm just stirring it in here. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just literally stirring this in here. Okay. And then I'll show you in just a moment. So we added this extra can. We had the 2 cups of water with the other can of the green sauce. And so I'm literally leaving this on low. I'm not changing the heat or anything like that. I'm just letting it sit like this for just a few moments, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and bang my thing here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to take my can of black beans and I'm gonna drain them real quick. So we wanna make sure that we're draining our black beans, and this is a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. So you can either boil your own black beans. I like to boil my black beans, but who has time for that, especially right now? So I'm just going to go ahead and shake the can a little bit, try and get out all of the juices that I can. Okay, kind of go back and forth, leaving just enough space for the water to come out. Or you can strain them, but why dirty another dish? How you have to clean up. So, okay, so we've got most of our juice out here. I'm just going to go ahead and rinse my hand real quick. All right, and one of the reasons that I love having a towel on your shoulder is you can just get up and go. So I'm going to go ahead and head back over to my chicken, or my little sauce here, and I'm just going to go ahead and take my can and I'm just going to pour that in there, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and set that off to the side, and I'm going to take my spoon and I'm just going to stir, mix it all in here. Okay, so as I stated earlier, I had this on a nice boil. We want to keep as much sauce as we can in this. Now you would probably, depending upon how much chicken you make, you could probably make a really big casserole dish out of this. But because I'm using my pie tins or my glass pie dishes, this is probably more than enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back over to our little station over here, and we're going to do our chicken. We're going to shred our chicken. So literally one of the easiest processes in this whole thing is literally taking our chicken and shredding it down. And as you can see, literally almost just poke it and it falls apart. So, but I'm going to do it right. I'm going to show you how I do it because this is how my process, so I can't deviate from the process. So I'm just going to go ahead and and I just hold the chicken down, and what I do is I just kind of do like shavings almost. So I'll kind of move you down just a little bit. Hopefully you can see that better. So anyway, yeah, I just kind of take it and I just kind of shave it off like that. And if I get big pieces, it's no big deal. Just kind of take it and just shred it like that. Now, some people are a little bit delicate, you know, in this process. I'm not. I just take it and I just shred it like this. And then if I have to, I just go back over it. Or I take my hands and get my hands dirty and, you know, stop being a wimp and get in there and actually break it up. But you don't want to do it while it's, you know, really, really hot. So I'm just making that disclaimer right there. You don't want to do it when it's too hot. Okay. Now, some people don't like to use the fatty parts or the gristle, as we love to call it. But if you boil it right and you do it well enough, you actually minimize the gristle. And even when you do have it, it actually, you know, isn't that bad. So you can actually leave it in there. So you can use almost the whole chicken, if not the whole chicken. So I'm just taking it and I'm just going like this. I'm just kind of breaking it apart. It's not a steak. I'm not going to eat it right now. I'm just shredding it. So one of the things, and like I said, it doesn't have to be delicate. You can have big pieces, small pieces. I like to shred it into little pieces because I try to make it go as far as I can. And when you're feeding a lot of people, you need it to go a long way. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to shred like that. And if anybody has any questions, if I'm going way too fast, you let me know. I would be more than happy to stop and explain something, but it smells so good right now. And I haven't even added all my spices yet. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. So, all right. So I'm just breaking this chicken up here, just shredding it. And it's literally just, it's a breeze. It really is. Like I said, you could, one of these days, I'll actually show it to you. One of these little tricks I found online somewhere, where you actually take your little hand mixer, put it in a bowl, and you just turn the thing on, and it shreds within seconds. This is a little bit more of a labored process, but nonetheless, very well worth it in the end. So, okay, so I'm just shredding this over here, almost done. And then we'll show you our final product in just a few moments. But literally that was 3 chicken breasts and we're almost done. So I hope everybody's well. I hope you had something planned for Mother's Day if you have a mother out there. And if you are a mother, happy Mother's Day to you. I know over my military career, I've been adopted by many, many loving people, many loving mothers and fathers during my time of service that have been nothing but like parents to me. So I couldn't help but say thank you to them and happy Mother's Day to them. Thank you for your love and support. All right, so like I said, I'm just literally taking this and just kind of scraping it off the top. And that's literally all I'm doing. So here, let's take a look. In just a moment, finishing up this last bit. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, that's awesome, Nicole. So literally this is what 3 chicken breasts look like that we boiled in our 2 cups of water and our 1 can of green chili enchilada sauce. So that's literally what it looks like. Could I break it down even more? Sure, but I'm not going to. So let's go back over to our other pot our other chicken that we had already started, just so that way you kind of see where we're at in this process. So over here, it's already boiling. As you can see right there, it is looking great. Kind of zoom in here. Now what I'm going to do is, it's on a medium-high heat. I'm going to turn it down because I don't want it to cook too much. I'm going to lose a whole lot of water, and then we're going to have to add more water, and we don't want that. So I'm going to put it on a low, and I'm just going to go ahead and cover it back up, and I'm going to let it sit and make sure it's nice and firm. I'm going to let it sit. So over here we've got our other one that we just took our other chicken from, and I'm actually going to turn it up to a medium heat right now. So just so that way the frozen corn can actually kind of heat up with the beans a little bit and kind of move forward with this one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is my fun part. I get to add all of my spices. And so for those that know me know that I don't measure a whole lot of stuff, but one of the things I do love is being a mad scientist and actually use all of my spices. So my spices are, for this evening, we have our salt, we have our garlic salt, we have some chili peppers, crushed red peppers, we have some chili powder, we have some salt, or pepper, excuse me, and then we've got some cayenne pepper, and we have some cumin. And I'm very liberal on the cumin because I love cumin and the way that it smells, especially when it goes into my tacos and my enchiladas and stuff like that. And then not to forget our cilantro, because we're going to need the rest of our cilantro to go with this, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move over just a little bit to the other side of the stove where we've already started our other dish. So let's go ahead and move over just a moment. Yes, all of them, Kelly, and it's exciting because I love it. It has a lot of flavor. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set my crushed red peppers off to the side. So I'm going to start off with my garlic salt, and I'm only going to use a little bit. Why? Because I've already got minced garlic in here. I've already got the garlic juice. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle a tiny bit around the top. That's it. I'm going to set it off to the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my pepper and I'm just going to sprinkle on the top. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of salt. So I'm not even going to sprinkle it. I'm just going to put a little bit in my hand. And it's basically a pinch. And I'll show you. Basically a pinch straight in and over the shoulder. Anytime you want to come over, Kel. Anytime you're ready. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chili powder. This is a Walmart brand, but you know, you want chili powder. So I'm just going to sprinkle this over the top. Okay, just a little bit will do you. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my cumin. And this one I get from the local Mexican store, La Bonita, here in Las Vegas. You can get this at your local store, but this is fresh cumin that is sold in the store here. So I'm just literally going to take this and I'm just going to sprinkle around the top. And I'm actually going to do this process 3 times, just sprinkling it over the top, okay? And I'm going to put this back and I'm going to wait because this is a to-taste thing. So if it isn't enough, you can always add more. And if it's too much, I'm sorry. Once it's in, it's in. So you got to be mindful of that, okay? So, all right, here is my cayenne pepper. I'm not going to use a whole lot of this. I'm just literally going to use just a little bit. So again, this is fresh, straight from the local store. And I'm going to show this to you. Literally, that's it. That's it. That's all you need. A little bit of this goes a long way. And a lot of it, you're done. Dead. Finito. Finished. At least your body will want to say that. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the rest of this and I'm just going to sprinkle this in here. I'm not going to use all of it right at the moment, but I'm going to sprinkle this in. Why? Because I'm going to let it cook down. I'm going to let it simmer a little bit. I'm going to show you this is what it looks like, okay? So I'm going to take my spoon and I'm just going to, and now we've got it on a medium heat. I'm just going to go ahead and let it I'm just going to meld this all together, or as some people would say, marry it all together. I'm just going to stir this because you want to make sure you get all of the seasoning that we just put in there, and you want to make sure it blends well. Okay, you don't want any dry portions, you don't want any clumps, which it can clump. See, if you notice that there, you want to make sure you get all of that, and you want to mix it well. Mix, 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 mix well. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to stir this for a little bit. It's going to start boiling here in just a few minutes. And I'm just going to continue to stir for a little bit. Now, we don't need to necessarily make sure that it's completely boiling or that it's completely ready to eat right at the moment, because we still got to bake it. So I'm just going to let that simmer for a few minutes, and I'm actually going to go ahead and take my chicken and I'm going to put it back in the bowl, because here in a few minutes I got to clean this up so we can get it ready, so we can get our dishes ready to actually prepare for the tortillas and everything else. So I'm just going to use my hands, and I'm going to go ahead and just put it back in the bowl over here. Okay, and you want to try and keep as much as you can in the bowl. You don't want to lose anything. You want every last drop. You want every last bite. So, and that's exactly what this is going to be, every last bite. So I'm even going to take my knife, put it off in there, take my hands, literally rub them together, try and get everything in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now rinse my board off and everything else. I'm going to kind of move it out of the way, just so that way we can rinse it off in a moment, and then we can kind of get back in gears here. So let's rinse it off. Kelly, whenever you guys want to come over, there's going to be plenty. I'm not going to be able to eat all this by myself. So, all right. So I'm making, for those that are just joining me, I am making something that my grandma would call lazy man enchiladas, or as some people would call it, enchilada casserole. So it's literally going to be layered enchiladas, or layered tortillas with enchilada filling. And that's what we're making right now. All right, so I went ahead and rinsed off our board. Now let's go ahead and we're going to head back over here to our sauce, and as you can see, it's starting to boil, which is great. That's what we need. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir this one more time before we really get started here, because now here's where we get to that point where we're going to bake it. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this on top. And for those that wonder why I leave my spoons on top, I actually learned this trick a long time ago. When you're boiling water and you have noodles or something like that, when it boils up, you know, it tends to boil over because there's nothing there to stop it. But if you put your wooden spoon or a wooden spatula or something like there in the middle of it, when it starts to boil up and over, when you're boiling noodles or something like that, it will actually stop the bubbles from boiling over and getting all over the place. And so that's just a habit. Not saying that it will do that in this instance, but it definitely helps when you're using when you're boiling for other things. Now I have our crushed red peppers. I'm going to use that in just a moment. I just want to make sure that you know that I haven't forgotten to use it yet. So here in just a moment, we're going to let that boil for a little bit, and then we're going to move forward into our process of layering, because I don't know about you, but I'm definitely hungry now. If I wasn't before, I'm definitely hungry now. So as you can see, it's thickened up. We got a nice good sauce here. Now, this can be a lot, as I said. So I'm just going to set that there. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move that to the side real quick so we can add our crushed red peppers. So that's it. That's all you need. Literally all you need, because you got a lot of spice going on here. But honestly, if you wanted to, you could always add some tapatio. Anyway. All right, so I'm just going to mix this around. I'm going to let it boil a little bit. And as we get ready to move forward, we're going to get our pan ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get our pie pan, and I'm going to go ahead and get our tortillas, and we're going to get started on our layering process. Okay, so I've got my bowl, and I've got my tortillas, which normally you can't go wrong with buying, you know, homemade tortillas. Tony doesn't have time to make them, so store-bought. But, you know, kudos on those that actually can. Because there's nothing like homemade tortillas, trust me. Especially when it comes to quesadillas or tacos or even enchiladas, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn you just slightly this way. I'm going to turn this down to low because we don't want it to boil, right? We want it to be just right. So, and it's already hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open my tortillas so they're nice and open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ladle here, and I'm going to take, and I just want the juice. Okay, we just want the sauce. And I'm going to turn you a little bit more this way. We just want the sauce. We don't want anything in there. So, you know, this is where it can get a little complicated. It's okay to have a little bit of the cilantro and stuff like that, but you want to try and have just the sauce. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting a layer of sauce down here at the bottom. Why? Because it's going to help hold the tortilla down when we start to fill, but it's also going to help cook it from the bottom as well. You know, it's not going to be, you know, it could dry out if you keep it in there too long, but if you put just enough sauce down there at the bottom, you're going to be just fine. Now, for those that are dieting, I'm sorry, this is not a diet. This is not for you to diet. Okay, but we're just going to go ahead and take this, and we're just going to move it, line the pie bowl or the pipe. Okay, and then we're just putting it on the edges, because that's also going to be a way to help keep it from not necessarily sticking, but it will definitely keep it together. Okay, so I'm just putting that there for just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set this off to the side into the chicken, and I'm going to take my first tortilla, and I'm going to kind of fold it. You don't want to fold it too much, but you're going to fold it just a little bit, and you're going to dip it. Okay, you're going to dip the bottom of it. I'm going to flip it on both sides. And part of the reason why we also line the bottom is so that way, even if you don't get all of it, you still get all of it. So that's the best part. So just let it drain a little bit so you don't get it all over the place. And then once you're done, you literally just fold it in, just fit it into the bottom part of the pie dish. Literally, that's all it is. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take some of our chicken, and we're going to go ahead and spread it over. Okay, and we're just gonna, and there's some big pieces in here. Like I said, you can take it, you can break it down. I'm going to, just because that's just how I am. But I'm just going to go ahead and take some of my chicken, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that over, all over, right? So this is just a quick and easy way. This, you know, like I said, you can use a bigger pan for this. I'm just using this, A, because of the sake of time, but also the sake of cleaning dishes. So, all right. So and it's going to be up to you. You know, if you want to really cram-packed, you know, one layer, if you want to do multiple layers and stuff like that, that's going to be up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is what we got going on here. So So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is as close as I can get it. I'm going to take my ladle and I'm going to go in here and I'm really digging in for beans and corn and onions and cilantro. And I'm just going to go ahead and cover it like that. Okay. For the moment, I'm just going in for the beans and the corn and everything else. And I'm just literally taking it and I'm just layering it. Remember, you're still getting sauce, so you don't want to do too much sauce. You want to try and get in there and get the good stuff. Even if you have to strain it a little bit. Because you don't want too much sauce. You want just the right amount of everything, right? So. Okay. So here we go. This is what we got going on here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get our cheese because I love cheese. So remember, I usually use Colby Jack cheese. You can use the 4 Mexican cheese blend. You can use really whatever cheese you want, but this is what Chief Tony's using tonight. So go ahead and open this bad boy, and I'm going to be very liberal with this. Like I said, I love cheese, so I'm going to use some of this all over here. Okay. I'm just going to stuff every crevice full of cheese that I can get. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take another tortilla and I'm going to do the same process. I'm just going to kind of fold it a little bit and we're going to go ahead and we're just going to dip it. Okay, so I'm just going to dip. We're going to dip a little bit, try and get both sides, get in there as much as you can. Dip at least on the outside of that. Okay. I'm just going to let it drip a little bit, and I'm going to take it and I'm just going to go ahead and lay it on top. Now the cool part is with this is now this is just a 2-layer, so the pie pan is literally not going to be that much. You don't have a whole lot of room. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ladle and I'm going to take some of the juice and I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to go over it. Now you can try and add another layer of this. I'm not going to, just for the simple fact that there's just not enough room and for time's sake. Okay, so you can make this in a crock pot even, and I've done that before and it's done very, very well. That's awesome. I love it. So, you know, this is just one little thing. And so, all right, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my spoon and I'm just going to kind of press in a little bit into the actual tortilla so we can kind of, and I'll show you. So just so that way you can see, you know, when you first put it in there, it's not necessarily, it ends up like that. It kind of overlaps. So if you want, you could actually do another layer with this. You know, just press down, take your ladle, and just go with the edge of the pie, not tin, but the glass pie pan. So, and then you could actually do another one. You could actually do another layer here. So, and as you saw, I took my ladle and I, you know, added. So what I'm actually going to do here, and again for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and take my cheese and I'm just going to sprinkle the cheese around. And because I love cheese, you're going to see a lot of cheese here. So this necessarily probably won't take a good 40 minutes. This is really going to take maybe about 20 minutes, maybe 30, depending upon your altitude and stuff like that. So now that we've got this, I'm just going to sprinkle that around here, even it out as much as I can. All right, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add my olives real quick. So we have our olives still to drain. I didn't open my olives. You don't have to put olives on there, but I'm going to do it anyway. And because Tony has a hard time opening opening cans and stuff like that, I'm just literally going to take my fork and pop it open. So let's go ahead and drain our olives real quick, and then we'll throw those bad boys on top, and we'll put it in the oven to bake, and then we'll come back live when it's finished. So we're just going to drain here. And again, these are black olives with jalapenos to give a little kick. All right, and so we're going to come back over here, and we're just going to sprinkle the top of this. Literally, that's all we're going to do. Just take this and sprinkle the top. Now, I love to put olives throughout this process. So if you want, you can take olives and dice them or slice them and stuff like that. I didn't in this process in this video, but you can definitely do that. That's definitely one. You don't have to have the ones with jalapenos. I like jalapenos, and if you wanted to, you could actually add that to this recipe if you wanted. I just didn't, because I know not everybody likes jalapenos. So what I'm going to do here in just a moment. So again, our oven is set at 375. It's already ready to go. I have my pan ready to go. So this is what it looks like, guys. It almost looks like pizza. So I'm going to go ahead and open our oven here. And I set it on the pan just because you want to be able to keep it from spilling over. If you have too much sauce in there, it will spill over and it'll get all over the place. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that sit there. So what do you do with the rest of this? Well, I'm going to use it or save it. So that's one of the cool parts, is that you can actually save this. If you can it, and if you can it right, you can actually use it or put it back in the refrigerator, put it in a nice glass mason jar, and you can actually use it again when you're ready. So you don't even have to go through this process again when you make this, especially if you make it once a month. It sits good in the refrigerator, canned, for about a good 3 months, maybe 4. But you try not to take chances. So, all right, guys. Well, as of right now, this is the end of this segment, but I will come back live in about 30 minutes to actually show you what it looks like. I will take pictures, post it on my Facebook page. I will post the video on the YouTube page. Thank you all for following me. Thank you all for being understanding and grateful. I really do appreciate it. And, again, happy Mother's Day. Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Make sure you share and like our page with your friends, fans, family, and friends, and stuff like that. So that way we get the word for Cooking with Chief Tony out there. Also subscribe to us on YouTube and on Instagram. We're on there as well. Thank you guys again. I will be back live in about 30 minutes on Facebook, and we will go ahead and I will show you the final product. So happy Mother's Day. God bless everybody. Bye.